Some of you have been here a while now and might know that I'm a pretty lazy man. But how on earth can you have a healthy diet that's also easy and convenient? Well, if you live in the US, it is your lucky day because I've got the perfect solution for you. Factor offers you the chance to get fresh, ready-made meals delivered directly to your doorstep. They're never frozen, they're full of high quality ingredients and packed with nutritional value too. It even offers meals for those following different lifestyles and diets. So what are you waiting for? Go and click that lovely link at the top of the description now. You'll get plenty of money off your first order with Factor and some off the few after too. You'd be a fool to miss out on an opportunity like that. Well, after a pretty dismal finish to a long and historic season here with Distillery, we have got some big decisions to make. We're still going to be working off the pitch. That is our main priority to improve this club's standing. We've got a bit of work to do on it as well. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 102 of Lifting Spirits with me, Daniel. We are back following a very disappointing finish to our Build a Nation season with Distillery. We had a very good year in Europe. We won the first domestic cup of the season. And after that, it all went pear-shaped, didn't it? We're going to try and rectify that next season. But beforehand, we've got some planning to do. We're going to continue, of course, to try and build this club's reputation, which means a lot of our spending and a lot of our energy needs to go off the pitch, trying to improve training facilities and all of the stuff around that. However, we have also got to keep our progress because this summer, probably the last of our players on semi-professional contracts will either need to leave or sign full-term ones. We want to get to full-time status and we want to get lots more coaches in. We want to build that support team around the playing staff. And of course, we've got to improve that side of things too. So we're going to have a look at our squad, see what we should do, what our first big season in Europe has done to our coefficient, and of course, what the other clubs failing has done to the Nations one this year. So if you're looking forward to all of that, as well as seeing if we can plan to topple Linfield next year, then please do put a thumbs up on it. We'll start, of course, with a quick reminder of how things finished. Not well is the simple answer. We bottled the league. We lost 4-0 to Linfield on the penultimate day to hand them the title. We lost the Irish Cup final to them. We lost the League Cup final to them. We lost in the SPFL Trophy semi-final in the midst of stupid fixture congestion. And we lost the All-Ireland Cup to Derry City. However, we won the Shield. We got through to the knockout stages of the Europa Conference. There were still positives to take from this year. What also is a positive for us is despite finishing second in the league now and not being able to win the title, we're not in a position that we would have been in previous years. Because Larne and Linfield did such good work in Europe before, and because we did such good work this year, it means that the second place team goes into Europa League qualifying and again gets 2 bites at the cherry essentially. We'll look at the coefficient in a bit more detail in a moment, but first let's get ahead to the season review messages and then we'll plan what we're going to do with this squad this summer because ultimately that is where we've got to improve for immediate change. Well, no formal end of season review yet because the European Places playoffs are still well ongoing in the Irish Prem, but we've got all of our other messages and the first one is a pretty big one. The wage budget hasn't gone up a huge amount next year and that is a bit of a problem for us because it means at the moment we're only able to offer a maximum of £2,000 a week to a player. And even when we increase it, they're still not letting us go up on what our maximum offer is. And unfortunately for us, it's a long way below what most players are wanting, of any stature anyway. So it might make us rethink what we're going to do in the summer a bit, but we'll get to that in a minute. The transfer budget's 2 million, but as you know, and as I'm sure you will probably accept in this game, I have to prioritise using that on training facilities, youth facilities, recruitment, all of that, because the homegrown problem is something that is costing us in terms of not being able to name a 25-man European squad, having to add under 20s to feature in a league squad, things like that. So it is something I've got to prioritise. Let's have a look at the club vision and expectations though. A lot more casual fans coming in, which is good. We need the club to grow in size. We need more than 83 season ticket holders. And crucially, we need to get people in for the lower league games where they go, we'll just go and watch Distillery today because they're a good side. Surely we can get another 100 or so in next year. We did break the average attendance record, but it's still nothing spectacular. And again, it's mainly because of games like Linfield at home rather than our own home attendance. The club vision and expectation is be competitive in Europa League qualifying, qualify for the Europa League via the league, which basically means you've got to finish top 2. You can see we've got an improvement to the training and youth facilities in progress. I'll show you what that means for where we are in our development at the minute. But the big problem for us ultimately is trying to get big enough wages to get good players in and not break the bank. And of course, with Larn getting a new manager in and finishing the season well, we need to worry about them next year too. The end of season team meeting we'll do in a minute. Everything else all right. Few injuries catching up with us in the end. We saw Kean's big one, Bobby Harvey, Gavin Reed, all of the right backs essentially. Few others here and there, lots of other 3 or 4 weak ones, but it just started to catch up towards the end. A lot of pulled muscles, a lot of sprained ligaments, all that sort of stuff. And maybe that's why we need a bigger squad next year, just so we can have a subs bench for most of our games where we're in between 2 or 3 a week. That's just a dedicated bench for that, rather than being other players playing another half an hour. We'll worry about that in a minute. Let's get to the squad. We have got a lot to talk about. We've got the unavailable players back in, and first things first, 2 defenders extended their loans. Great news. Ben Parry has now extended his contract at his parent club, so hopefully we can extend his loan in turn. But I don't want to rely on them too much, and if we can get improvements again, I'd very much like to bring them in. What I am looking at is squad depth, and it doesn't really have to be first 11 players. Yes, I would love to get a couple of very good defenders in. I really feel we're a centre-half away from being a very good team. Jamie Williams at left-back is a great player, won't sign a new contract at the minute and has a minimum fee release of about 400 grand, I think. It is 350, so he might be gone. But he's a very good player. Going to the Youth World Cup soon. We're going to have to watch out for bids from him. However, in midfield, we've got depth, we've got quality. It's not an area we were caught out. But we are in a position with Lennon, with Robinson, some of them like Lennon, only 1 year left on their contract, where we might get silly offers. And for Lennon in particular, it's Larn who want him. Do we strengthen the nation by moving him on? Up front, we've got to get a better second player. Either that, or Lafferty becomes our dedicated second striker, and we get a very good starting right winger in. I know Puarte did have a good season, but I still feel that's the weakness in our team. We can get a right winger, we can get a centre-half. I feel we're on the right track. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that, because of course it is important for you to have your say too. I will show you the contractual situation because I'm in a little bit of a catch-22, but I think I've decided what my next move's going to be. Basically, we've signed a few players down to new deals like Michael Hatton and a few others where we've put offers in. So Lewis Scott, Darren Murphy, if he ends his unhappiness, we'll do the same. Kean, we'd offered one, but he didn't want to take the terms. And we've also offered one to Harvey and Mpardi as well. And the reason being, I want those players to sort of become that dedicated bench next year. We've got players who are versatile, and Mpardi can play 4 positions. Bobby Harvey can play anywhere in the back 4. Lewis Scott is homegrown at the club. Darren Murphy, homegrown in the nation. Those are the reasons we want those guys. What I've got to think about though, I will just say now, Mark Wilson's going to be going. I forgot he was even coming back till the last episode. What we have got to think about is where we want better squad depth. I feel we're in a position now where we need 2 strong players in every position, and then another 3 or 4 like Harvey and Mpardi, Lewis Scott, who can be backups to the backups. Now, Lewis Scott has been able to be that this year. David Aitken has been another one, who hopefully will stay in next year as well. But I do feel we're going to need 3 or 4 more. Bobby Harvey is not a good enough backup right back. Kean is not a good enough backup centre-half. And Mpardi probably isn't a good enough backup right winger. And of course, we've also got the problem that a lot of those players who have been the under-20s for our 20-man league squad and not had to be registered will now not be next season. So we'll still be all right with Reed, McKenzie and with Aitken. But now Jamie Williams, I'm not sure about. But most importantly, Ben Parry will not. So that takes up another place from the league squad that we would normally have. And we've got to keep regenerating those youth players because we've got the mix of having to have the homegrown in the nation and at the club for the Champions League or for Europe in general. And then in the league, we've got to have players who are either under 20 or homegrown at the club. It's something we've really got to work at this summer. We've got to go and raid those Premier League Championship clubs for young signings. We miss out on so many of them because there's other English clubs that want them. There's Welsh clubs going in TNS. There's Scottish clubs going in. And there's Linfield and Larn, of course, competing for the Northern Irish ones. But we have got to get 2 or 3 of those over the line this summer. And looking at what's happening with the facilities and what's happening with the money, which the bank balance looks great at 4 million, but we've not guaranteed group stage football next year and we will have a harder draw. I also know we're going to be spending another 2 million on training and youth facilities as soon as we're able to. So I've got to be a bit careful on this front. I don't mind paying a transfer fee for players because we'll make it back eventually. And we've obviously limited on the wages, as we've talked about before. I feel that we're going to have to change our strategy this summer. I can't go out yet at this stage and go and get ready-made players at 25, 26 who are brilliant. It just doesn't happen. Maurice Simpson last summer is probably the closest we'll get to that, and Cameron Goss a couple of years earlier. But even then, we got them a bit earlier on and developed them. And probably the only place we've been able to do it is either from the Welsh Premier League, where I think we've taken them all now, or from the Irish League in terms of the Republic of Ireland. But that reputation is very similar to ours, so we're going to have to pay good money to get them in. So what I feel as a result, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, is I think now we go on an assault for sort of 2 or 3 years' time. We go and get in 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are good enough to play half of the league games next season, be those sorts of replacements for the likes of Sean Daniels, for the likes of Keane, the centre-half, for the other ones we've mentioned, Bobby Harvey, etc., Lewis Scott, Jaffet and Pardy, Jonathan McElhatton, the list goes on. Get players that are of that level now, but are at the other end of their career. And therefore, we have a bigger squad for 2 or 3 years that is of a good quality. We've got players who we're signing on who are still here, who are happy to be impact subs, fringe players, whatever it is. And we've also got players that can then play in the reserves, make use of the fact in Northern Ireland that there is a good reserve league. I mean, we've still got players who are playing with us in the 3rd tier, and you've probably not seen their names for years here. But we've got players, like there's one coming up to a testimonial this summer. Bobby Robinson, if you remember him, he's here at 31 now. He's been here since the start. He was a regular starter in our first season. Played 14 matches, played 7 the second season. Starter's a strong word, but he was in the squad a lot. He's still at the football club. So the reserve system does allow everyone to stay fit. It does allow people who are fringe members of the squad to stay on board and to stay happy. And it does give us an opportunity to have a bigger squad. So that is something I'm really focusing on as well. Hopefully it will aid us in the future years of this save. Do us a few favours. You did see there as well, there is one player potentially ready to take a step up. That man is Tennant Dykes, who's 2-star ability, 3-star potential. We either loan him out or we keep him a year. And next season, homegrown at the club, maybe someone just good enough to hang on to for now. Again, it's only going to be for a few league matches. So that's the sort of position I'm thinking about at the minute. We can't go out and get ready-made replacements. We can't go out and just sign 4.5-star players because they want more wage than we are allowed to offer. So why don't we go out, get 18, 19-year-olds who are already at the level. We're now professional. They'll be training full-time. We'll have a big coaching team. We'll improve it more. The facilities will go with it. And then we'll develop them into stars and try and avoid giving them minimum fee releases. Hopefully their agents will play ball. I don't really want to rely on a squad of loan players, which is the only other option. So I think I'd rather do the more realistic build of the two. And hopefully it takes us to the next level. But ultimately, as long as we get closer to Linfield and as long as we stay in that top 2 for the next year or two, we should be in pretty good shape because off the pitch, things are progressing nicely. We've looked at the finances. The facilities are moving up with them. The next upgrade, which is already scheduled, as you know, will take both of the facilities to average or adequate, whichever one it is. So we're up there with some of the others in the nation. Of course, Linfield and Larne are steps ahead on that front. They're up to good and great already. They've got better stadiums. They've got bigger fan bases. But we're catching up on the youth front, which is great. The next junior coaching one will take us above average. The youth recruitment will do the same. And at the moment, I feel like that is our biggest chance. Can we get 1 or 2 great youth players in, and maybe develop our own Northern Irish talent, which in turn will help me as an international manager too, where a few are coming towards the end. That's enough about my plans with Distillery though. Let's have a look back at what this season has achieved. If we go to the coefficient screen, one of our regulars now in end of season reviews in this save, well, it has had a pretty astronomical impact. We have a look at the Nation Club coefficients. Northern Ireland went up to 22nd last year, which is where the extra Europa League space has come from. This season, due to the worst year coming off, the last really bad year in truth, and us adding a pretty decent year on top of it, we are due to go up to about 18th, and that will put us close to getting an extra side in Europe. However, look at the year after it. For the first time from next year, we're in a position where every year is a decent year. And if we lose a good year, we've got to replace it with a good one. Now, we're in a position at this stage where we can help with that, but we need Linfield or Larne or whoever else gets in to help us. So to make it realistically, there's got to be another side in the Europa Conference groups, and hopefully someone will come and join us every year. And of course, it's not going to be easy for us either, because although we're doing well, the problem we've got when you go and have a look at the club coefficients is that although we're due to go up massively, it is a problem for the long term that we're still not going to be in that sort of top 100, that top 50, where you get the easier qualifying draws. If we get Northern Ireland up and see how we've progressed, it's been a very good year. Lana in 80th, but they've lost a bad year this year. Linfield had a shocking year. They're in 134th. We are going up from 417th a long way because we got 10.5 this year. If you look at that, it's going to put us up to 16 overall. And if you look at the coefficient rankings, if we get them in positional order, that should take us up, keep going, somewhere around here in the sort of 150 to 200 region. So that's what we're looking at for next season. I hope we can progress from there. And fingers crossed, if nothing else, at least one side can back us up next season. We've got to do work with club and country. Let me know how you think that will get on. I will obviously show you more as we go on in this save. I wanted to show you some data hub stuff this year, but I just didn't have the time to fit it in. Because actually, in terms of chances created, in terms of great opportunities, expected goals, all of that sort of stuff, dribbles, crosses, key passes, we are almost identical with Linfield. We've just not got that final pass quality, and we're not consistent enough in front of goal, particularly when Maurice Simpson wasn't playing. So a very important year coming up next season. Can us and Linfield at the very least get group stage football? Can we improve the squad? Can we get those young players in we talked about? And do you think it's the right strategy? We might well lose one or two for the first time because there are very good players wanted, and they're wanted for pretty decent fees, particularly in the shape of Rory Lennon, of Tom Robinson and Jamie Williams. But I'm interested to know what your thoughts on it are. I know I often get criticism in the comments in every save for not being particularly flamboyant with my money, but I want it to be realistic. This club would be a bit more cautious, thinking, well, you might not get group stage football next year. But more importantly, we're trying to build for the long term. And building infrastructure and facilities is going to do far more for us in the long term than signing a few good players is this summer. So I want to try and focus on the future. I want to get players that are squad ready, but maybe not quite at the peak of their powers. And then again, we can get a few on free transfers. Does it give us the chance to make a profit? Let me know your thoughts on all of that down in the comments. If you did enjoy this season, a bitterly disappointing end, but a big summer to try and get things right, then please do put a thumbs up on it. I've got international qualifiers in the midst of it to worry about too, but we will be back in, I'd imagine, mid-July for our first Europa League qualifier. The first time we've been in this position at the start of a season. Last year it was Champions League, prior to that Europa Conference. And of course, we've got to try and topple Linfield too. A big summer transfer window to come for us and the other big clubs as well. If you want to stay up to date and see how it goes, we'll be back in a couple of days' time to reflect on it. And subscribe and turn that notification bell on. In the meantime, we'll be back with a head coach tomorrow, and for the second time in 2 weeks, you'll be shaping my future. If you haven't already seen it, go and check out yesterday's video in the eye above, because I need your help to make a big decision. You can find up there also the Twitch channel, the football podcast, and the blog story as well. But thank you very much for watching, for following another season. It's going to be a massive one next year with Distillery. We're going to have to push on and off the pitch. Let me know if you think we can do it, and I'll see you next time to find out for real.